everybody. It's Judy K from Living Well with a new series on how to come back from tragedy and trauma. And I know some of you out there understand tragedy and trauma. I know you do. I mean, I did. I've experienced it since I was a little girl. So I hope in this series to bring you inspiration and motivation through the speakers I'm going to interview, people that have experienced some of the things that you have, and maybe not some of the things you have, but experienced how they went from way down under to climb back up on top and to live a life that's full. And today I'm really happy to have Eddie on. I'm so excited. I have met Eddie on a special social media site, and I wanted to hear his story, and I knew he had to be one of the first ones I interviewed. So Eddie, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I am happy I'm here too. Thank you.
Yeah, you're happy you're here in so many other words as well.
Absolutely.
Eddie has a story to tell that may be more dramatic than some of your stories, guys, but I know a lot of you can relate in many ways. So Eddie, let's start the story off. Where does it begin?
Where does it begin? It begins with me being born and raised in New Orleans. Growing up in an alcoholic family. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom had a terminal disease called scleroderma, which she had died from when she was 47. And that was a big part of me falling to drugs, was for that reason. I was always told as a child from my dad when he was drinking that I was the cause of my mom's illness, right? Mm-hmm. And I was the one making her sick and just and all kinds of other emotional abuse. But I do have to say though, now my dad has been sober now for 30 something years. So that's a beautiful thing. As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, I handed him his 33-year chip for sobriety at an AA meeting, right?
Wow.
And so let me get back to that. So I grew up with trauma, and I'm sure everybody has too as well, right? So that led me to a life of let me say this too, right? Because of that, even before I started drugs, right, I was always trying to escape reality, right? Because I used to be terrified to come home from school, right? And if my mom was sleeping, I would be terrified. I thought she was dead, right, from being sick. And I used to be so terrified every day on my walk home from school to come home, you know? And so, so that was, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. It's the first time I've ever been interviewed. Sorry.
This is fine. Just relax. It's only us here. It's only
okay. So I was always trying to escape reality, right? Yeah. Like even as a child, I was always trying to transfer my consciousness into animals, into trees, into other things, right? Always trying to escape reality. And so that was a big thing for me, was escape, right? And so that basically led me down the path to drugs, right? But I did do 10 years in the Navy, and which was a beautiful thing. I got to live in Spain for a couple of years, right? And it was beautiful, a very, very good time. But because of my addiction, I got a bad discharge from the Navy, correct? And but I did, so let me start off. So I did 4 years in the Navy, right? I got an honorable discharge, correct? So I got out for 6 months because I was very rebellious at the time. So I got out for 6 months, and then I rejoined the Navy after 6 months, and I did 6 more years, right? But those 6 years, I got a very bad discharge, correct? And this is what really led me to go down the spiral, right? So once I got myself kicked out the Navy, right? I was so depressed and discouraged with myself, right? And so I was really just trying to kill myself, and I was too much of a wuss to put a gun to my head. So I was doing it slowly through drugs and alcohol, right? Yeah. And one of the major reasons was fear, correct? It was because of fear. I was so scared to go to the VA, right? To go apply for benefits because I thought they were going to reject me because of that bad discharge, right? So, but the whole time, because of that good discharge the first time, because of my rebellion, I actually had benefits the whole time, right? And I was actually, so what I'm getting at is fear is what kept me, you know what I'm saying? Fear is what kept me along that path of destruction.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did that feel like to you? Because drugs take you out of the current reality and put you into a false reality. So you were probably craving them more and more.
Oh my God, Judy, look, it was the worst thing ever, right? So 4 years ago, I did not think it would be possible to wake up without thinking about using, right? I really thought it would be impossible, but I'm here to tell you otherwise, that it's not true. Every day I wake up and oh man, it's such a beautiful, freeing feeling not to have that on my mind, because let me know if I'm speaking too fast. I speak really fast.
Right. What was your drug of choice eventually?
Okay, so it started with alcohol, right? And then actually psychedelics was a big thing, LSD
Yeah.
and mushrooms and then opiates, right? I had a back injury in the Navy, so opiates became a thing with pills, and then it just progressed to heroin, right? And once I started doing heroin, within a year, I lost everything. A house, I went through $70,000 in a couple of months, and yeah, it took me down really, really fast. Really, it was a horrible experience, but it was the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I'm
Of
where I'm
course.
at now.
So let's just stay on this loss for a minute when you're on heroin, because it's expensive and it becomes that you just want to have it in your system all the time, because without it, you're a shell, your traumas and your everything is heightened to the point of you just want to double up on it to get fast back. So it costs money. I mean, heroin's expensive. Cocaine and heroin are expensive. I mean, they're the top drugs. So what did you lose? You lost your house and your car, probably. What else did you lose? Friends?
Oh, I lost friends. Yes, I lost friends. Lots of friends, actually. All my material possessions I sold. I sold for heroin. I had a boat I sold. I sold my truck. And eventually I was homeless. And yeah, it got to the point to where I was homeless. Thank God I didn't have to go under a bridge, but it was very close to that. After I lost the house, I went and stayed with my uncle. He finally got fed up with me, and then I finally went to the VA. And well, actually, I like a bad gangster would do. I called my dad for help.
Yeah. Help.
And I
And what
called
did your
him up.
dad, and what did your dad say?
Well, thank God that, he's been in the program AA for 30 something years. So he was very compassionate and he helped me out, took me to the VA, let me stay with him for a little bit, but I was still in this transition of to where I was still physically addicted to it. So I did not die by that point. Actually, the day he kicked me out, or I got myself kicked out of his house, I should say. He didn't kick me out. I kicked myself out. And the day that happened, it was New Year's Eve, 2017. And that's the day I died. I overdosed and died. And
Wow. Okay. Back up. Tell us
okay.
today what happened. What were you thinking?
Oh, on the day that I died?
Yeah. Talk about that day.
Oh man, it was I was really loaded, so it's hard for me to remember, but I do remember that it was just this horrible feeling of desperation. I went to a friend's house I grew up with. She let me go stay over there, and I just, God, the feeling was, it's so hard to describe because I haven't felt that way in so long, but I just felt so desperate and lost and totally lost. And just, and although I wanted to die, I didn't at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And then all I remember is I went to go take a shower at my friend's house, and then I woke up with paramedics resuscitating me.
Wow. I'm going to back up. That feeling of being lost and being desperate, like you are disconnected from everything and anybody. It's like nobody gets you. There's no connection to God, source, to angels, to nature, to anything, because the drugs have separated and caused a division within your soul and your head and your heart. And I experienced that feeling a few times in my life. And right now I have a son that I have moved out of the house after these years. He's 37. He's addicted to crack cocaine. He's supposedly living in a tent at the back of the property behind the shed, and it's cold up here. We're getting snow. So I know what the feeling is. I see the deadness in his eyes, like he doesn't belong here, right? And I understand about trauma and drama, helping to lead people down that path. Unfortunately, at the same time, I wasn't led down that path only for a short period of time, because then I got pregnant and had 5 kids. So there was no way drugs were going to ever be a part of my life, but I could have, because I was abandoned in so many ways. And I didn't feel like I belonged, like you. I mean, especially when you leave the Army and you didn't get a honorable discharge, and then the path just seems to go down lower and lower. And I know that you didn't intend to kill yourself, but you would have if this continued. So let's come back to the point. If you're on the floor, paramedics are there, what happens then?
Okay, so they resuscitate me, but let me say this though, when before I came to, or came back from the dead, I should say, I guess you would call it a near-death experience, right? So it was, I saw this tiny little light, like a pin drop, right? I saw this tiny little light, and there was this vine. Everything was black and white, and there was a vine hanging down, like this big tree vine, right? And but the thing was, I was laying on top of like a mountain of bodies, like a hill of bodies. It was all black and white, and I see this little pin drop, and I see this vine hanging down. So I start climbing up this vine, climbing up the vine, and boom! That's when I popped up, and I was like, "Whoa, what the hell?" And
Yeah.
so I went to the emergency room. They took me to the emergency room. My dad came to see me because, actually, let me back up. They called my dad because I was dead. My friend called my dad and said, "Look, your son just died." And because the paramedics, right, it was horrible. And so they told my dad I had died. So he's calling my sister, making arrangements for her to come down for the funeral. And then 30 minutes later, he gets a phone call from the East Jefferson Hospital that I'm in the emergency room and I'm alive.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're alive, and you know why you're alive, because you had a choice. You were given a choice on top of those dead bodies, that little bit of light, and all it takes is a little bit of light and that vine, and you decided subconsciously, as you're dead and you're entering that zone, right, the here and ever after, you made a choice subconsciously to say, no, I need to live. And then boom, everything opened up for you. We're powerful human beings, aren't we? We're so powerful. So can you imagine the shock of your dad and your sister? Not only that you're dead, but then you're alive. Oh my God, like talk about emotions, right? So then what happened to you after you woke up? What were you feeling?
At that time, I really wasn't feeling anything, tell you the truth, at that point, right? I knew that I really needed to be locked up in a facility, because every time I tried doing it for a year, getting off the heroin, right? And so I would get off for 4 or 5 days, and I would be sick as a dog, and then I'd be right back on it. And I knew that I had to be put away somewhere. So my cousin came and picked me up from the hospital, and I stayed with her for a week. Bless her soul, she's a beautiful human being. And so I got to stay with her, and then I was scheduled to go to this place called Gateway Recovery in New Orleans, right? It's for veterans. It's a 2-year program. So on the day I was scheduled to go, I was at the VA, and I wound up calling my drug dealer up, and I wound up doing a bunch of things, and I wound up walking around aimlessly in the VA. And so I woke up. This is my 3rd time now in a 3-week period getting tied to a bed in a hospital. So 3rd time's a charm, right? Because the 3rd time I woke up from this one in a detox facility, right then, that's that spiritual awakening. I knew right then that life is over and this new life begins. And not only did I have to just be abstinent, I had to change everything about me, my way of thinking, my preconceived ideas, beliefs. I knew all of that had to change immediately. And that's, from that day forward, I've never had an urge again to use drugs or alcohol ever since then.
Wow, that just gave me shivers, because you are exactly right. You don't attack an addiction with anything other than a change of beliefs about who you are, why you needed it or need it, and to change all of that. And then the universe steps in to accomplish everything about that. And that's part of the systems where the systems break down about addiction. They try to go about it in an odd sort of way where it holds the person prisoner forever. Whereas when you deal with this with your subconscious and your higher self, you set yourself free, right? Because it's easy to go back into drugs or cigarettes or alcohol. It's easy because it's just like, well, that feels good. I have control over that. And you actually do, and if you understand your addictive behaviors and why, it's the why that sets you free. Because if you know why you do it, then you make choices. No, I'm just going to have a drink with my friends and that's it. I'm going to bed, right? You're making a choice. But when we're addicted, it's because we haven't dealt with our traumas and our dramas. We haven't healed from them and forgiven yourself. I mean, the tragedy of your dad blaming your mom's condition on you it scarred you deeply. As a child, it would scar you so deeply that of course you're going to turn to something to make you feel better. No other person was there to support that or to tell your dad to stop or to give you emotional support, but the drugs sure did because they make you feel good. Drugs and alcohol make you feel good. They're designed to kill you. So you knew the third time's a charm. You had a spiritual awakening. Tell us what that spiritual awakening felt like.
When I woke up that morning, it was the most beautiful thing in the world. It's the most freest I've felt my whole life, right? Because I woke up, like I said, for the first time in my life, well, not my life, but the first time in probably, years that I woke up without thinking about using. Wow. And right, that's when it started, that day. That's when it started, right? And it was just the best feeling in the world because, like I said, not only did I have to be abstinent, I had to change everything about myself, everything, right? And, so it's been a long road, right? So where I'm at today, it took about 2.5 years of sobriety, correct? Because I would find myself even at about 2.5 years. I remember this specifically because I had another spiritual awakening, and this is a huge one too, another one, right? And because I would still find myself occasionally, maybe once or maybe 3 times a month, I would wake up, right, with the thought of past experiences with my dad. And I would get really angry, right? And I would start to feel hatred. And I noticed it was starting to fuel my day, right? And I was getting high off of that. So yeah, one day I was pulling into this parking lot to take a Merchant Marine to the hospital. And anyway, so in that parking lot is when I had this spiritual awakening. And it was like a switch flipped in my brain. All the resentments and anger and hatred for anybody that's ever done me wrong suddenly turned into love and compassion, understanding, and forgiveness right then. Wow. And ever since then, my mind has been on that frequency, and it's a beautiful thing.
Wow, that's huge. That is huge. Most people have to go through years of forgiveness and bitterness and resentment with, so many people because, see, you had pre-paved the way subconsciously for all this to happen. The universe knew you didn't have time to dilly-dally forgiving important people, especially like your dad who really abused you psychologically. You didn't have years of therapy for that because you would have gone back to using easily if you hadn't gotten rid of that, right? So it's so interesting the way our higher self sets us up for these huge awakenings and huge downfalls. I mean, to die, that's pretty big, Eddie, just to die and then to come back. So let's speak about one more thing before we have to wind this up. What is your passion and purpose right now?
My passion and purpose is to be of service to other people and help other people, right? And to better myself so I could better the world. That's basically where I'm at right now with my life, Yes.
I love this. Your story will help so many people because there are so many people that are far beyond addiction right now of so many different things, especially during this pandemic, the past 2 years. It's just crazy the amount of mental health that's out of control. So Eddie, if you had the last couple of minutes here, just an opportunity to say something to someone out there who is suffering big time, who is using anything for addictions, what would you tell them right now?
To anybody who is out there suffering, I have compassion for you and I do love you. And there's nothing you can do about that. I do love you. And There is a way out. There is a way out. I thought there was not a way out. Like I said, 4 years ago, I did not think it was possible to wake up without the thought of using, but I do it every day. I wake up grateful and happy. And the thing is, it took the gift of desperation for me to learn these things, right? But all it really takes is the gift of an open mind and to listen to people. And that's it. And that's really what it comes down to, is listening to other people, because I'm at the point now where I could learn from other people's experiences rather than have to experience all the things myself now. And for me, if I can get that way, anybody can do this. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Believe me, really. And then and if anybody needs help, please email me. If you want to give my email address, that's fine with me. And
Yep, give them, say it right now, Eddie.
oh yeah. My email address is edward.olavarrieta, OLAVARRIETA
Good. And they can rewind when they need to get it again. I'm blown away. I mean, I know tragedy stories. I've lived them. I've heard of them before, but to actually keep witnessing them. But the triumph is what gets me. I mean, the depths to which we persecute ourselves, the depths to which we abuse ourselves because of all the situational things that have happened on this planet, which are coming to an end shortly, by the way, as we all know. But to have weathered through all of that, I mean, that shows you that you are here for something bigger than you could ever imagine. And to everybody who's watching, no matter what addiction you have, small, middle, big, it doesn't matter. Know that there's a way out. Know that you are allowing yourself to be controlled by something that is far less greater than what you are. You are a sovereign being, and habits and addictions are just choices in the moment. And when you realize those are choices in the moment to cover up what's really going on in your heart, then you make choices for something different. So reach out to anybody, reach out to Eddie, reach out to me as I help people with troubled souls. Reach out to anybody that can help support you to understand and empathize with you. Therapy is one thing, but reaching out for support is something totally different, because when you reach out to another like-minded soul, you can begin your journey. Eddie, thank you so much for being here and being part of my new friendship list. And I am so happy to have met you, even though I haven't met you in person. I met you in heart and soul here. And to everyone else, have a blessed day, and thank you for watching. And please share this video to those you think will need the support and help. Thanks again, Eddie. Bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.